It has now been 2,997 days since I last upgraded my camera, and I'm starting to wonder, is this holding me back? The industry wants us to believe that buying a new camera will improve our photography, but is this actually true? Let's take a closer look. Hi, I'm Adam, and before we get going today, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. If you need a domain name, a website, or an online store, go to squarespace.com or hit the link down below. In mid-September 2016, I bought the Canon 5D Mark IV for about £3,500 and then almost immediately took it to the top of a mountain to do a review in the snow. And since then, we've been through a lot together, but it's an old camera now and it's shot hundreds of thousands of frames and many terabytes of video footage. You can now pick one of these up for around £700 on the used market, but I'm a professional photographer and I think a lot of people would expect me to be using the latest and greatest gear. I've been on the verge of upgrading so many times. I've tried and reviewed the Fujifilm GFX 100 on a number of occasions and I absolutely love this thing. It's big and expensive, but the files that medium format 100 megapixel sensor create are just beautiful. Fujifilm also put the same sensor in the smaller GFX 100S, which is much more suitable for landscape photographers like me, but I never took the plunge. I considered going smaller and lighter with something like the X-T4. That's a great camera and takes lovely pictures, but once I became accustomed to the full frame image quality, I didn't want to go back. After hanging around with Joe Cornish, I've even considered remortgaging my house to get the Phase 1 XT with 150 megapixel IQ4 back. I mean, it really doesn't get any better than that. I then went the complete opposite direction and considered just using my phone. All my family shots and walk around snaps, and I'll do with this because they're just that good. I made a video comparing a phone to the big camera last year, and whilst I have no intention of ditching the big camera permanently, with the 48 megapixel RAW mode on my phone, it was hard to see the difference in the final print. The closest I've come to upgrading though is with the Canon R5. I've used this a number of times and it's absolutely phenomenal. It's pretty much the perfect camera and does absolutely everything very, very well, including on this shoot here, capturing one of my favourite bits of footage ever with its 4K 120 slow motion mode. Canon have also now released the R5 Mark II with some incremental updates. We'll talk about that a bit more later on, but I've still not taken the decision to upgrade. The truth is, from a business point of view, I simply can't justify the upgrade because the Canon 5D Mark IV still does pretty much everything I need it to do. But it's human nature to desire new things, and camera companies launch products promising fresh and exciting features. So let's take a look at these and see if we can convince ourselves to empty our wallets. Big megapixels, that's the first one. For a while, it seemed the camera companies were at war about who could make the sensor with the most megapixels and the biggest resolution. My experience was always that image quality generally improves with the physical sensor size rather than resolution. When I jumped to full frame with the Canon 5D Mark II behind me there, it felt like a massive upgrade. So as a landscape photographer, wouldn't it therefore make sense to jump to a medium format sensor with over 100 megapixels? I mean, possibly, but there is literally only one reason to have a camera like this, and that is to make very large prints with exceptionally fine detail when viewed close up. Now, I've done this in the past and had them hung in my studio for a few years, and it is next level stuff, but the vast majority of my prints are A2, and it's overkill for that size. You can also make perfectly good large prints with a smaller sensor. The up close detail won't be quite as good, but how many people are getting that close? You have to stand back to see the whole thing anyway. Also, I recently made my biggest print ever that was 3.5 meters long when I visited the Canon large format team. That was a very fun day. And I shot this image in this video here using my 5D. and increased the final resolution by doing a vertical panorama, and the up-close detail looked amazing. So the promise of more megapixels is still not enough for me. What about improved autofocus then? It seems every new camera iteration promises this, and reviewers are talking about animal eye tracking, thousands of focus points and numerous modes. But personally, I just don't care about this. I now only shoot landscapes pretty much, where my subject isn't really moving, and I often use manual focus anyway. But even on the rare occasions when I photograph wildlife or people, I still just use a single focus point and then reframe, because that's the way I've always done it. I like using those skills and doing it myself rather than relying on the camera's software. What about dynamic range and noise handling at higher ISO? Admittedly, I would enjoy having a camera with better dynamic range. It's not an issue for my photos where I can just bracket them, and I often do that, but it would definitely help with shooting video. The problem is the improvement in dynamic range over the years that we've seen is very minor and still comes nowhere near what our eyes and brains achieve as we look out on a scene in real life. Improved noise handling would also be nice, but I shot weddings with the 5D Mark II in some pretty dark churches, and the images always looked great. If I was still a wedding photographer, I could probably justify upgrading based on this, but for landscapes, I shoot the vast majority of things at ISO 100 and rarely go above ISO 640. This image here was even shot at ISO 3200 to ensure I got the correct shutter speed to capture that lighthouse beam just right. And it still looks great, especially in print. More recently, software has improved too, and I'm now using the AI noise reduction in Lightroom on a lot of my work, and the results are phenomenal. New lenses and a switch to mirrorless is also not enticing enough for me. Whilst these new EVFs are brilliant and do the job, I still love having the optical viewfinder on the DSLR, and I miss it every time I use a new camera. One thing I do love about new cameras though is the articulated screen. The 5D doesn't have one, and it regularly causes me problems, but I'm not willing to spend around $5,000 to fix this minor inconvenience. I don't know about you, but it's been quite a long time since I got excited about a new bit of tech. Companies are trying too, with things like the Apple Vision Pro, which is just ridiculous. And I achieved the same idiotic look in this video here for around £15. But we're reaching saturation points with a lot of these markets. And I argued back in early 2021 that we'd already reached peak camera. Basically, that point where every camera on the market is brilliant and any new features is either very marginal or completely pointless. Like 8K video, who needs that? Already, I reckon about 95% of people would struggle to tell the difference between full HD and 4K. Absolutely loads of people I speak to only shoot stills anyway and have no interest in paying for video features. The problem camera companies have is that unfortunately we live in a debt-driven inflationary world where companies have to show growth forever or they go out of business. Not only is this unsustainable on a planet of finite resources, but it means we're also constantly subjected to these upgrade cycles with tiny incremental improvements just to get us consuming. And with pro camera bodies like the 5D Mark IV, they're extremely well built and they just work all of the time and for a long time. This is the way it should be, but we've now got to watch out for companies reducing standards or quality where we end up paying more for less and have to replace things more often. I think the point here is to try and avoid getting sucked into the upgrade cycle. Over the last 5 years or so, I've hardly bought anything in any part of my life. But when I do, I buy the highest quality thing I can afford, so it lasts a long time. Although I did get this very wrong recently when I picked up a DJI action cam after I lost my GoPro after throwing it off a cliff to make this video. I hate this thing. And the quality is terrible, and it's just confirmed my utter disdain for all action cameras. So if you do have money burning a hole in your pocket, what is the best way to use this to improve your photography? We'll talk about that in just a minute. But as you know, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. And in my opinion, Squarespace is simply the best place for photographers to build their own website. The main reason for this is it's just so easy to use. You just go to squarespace.com, type in what you want to do, choose a template, add some of your own words and a few pictures, and before you know it, you will have a unique and beautiful looking website. It's now got even easier too, because Squarespace has introduced some AI tools with Squarespace Design Intelligence. You can create a custom template with it, and the AI will assist you with the copy, like crafting a video or product description. Squarespace will also grow with you if you want to convert your website into an online store to start selling things like prints or books or workshops or calendars or mugs, whatever takes your fancy. You can do that just as easily. And if you run into any trouble, they have award-winning customer service. If this is sort of piqued your interest and you've been put off making your websites up to now, why not give it a try and just go to squarespace.com or hit the link down below and you can start a free trial today. And once you've set yourself up and you're happy with what you've created, use the offer code FIRSTMAN. That's right, FIRSTMAN. Tell them that I sent you there and you'll get 10% off your first purchase. So if you want to improve your photography, how can we best allocate our capital to make that happen? Buy some new glass? I would argue that probably we reached peak lens decades ago. If you already have all the focal ranges covered and you can shoot everything that you need, then there really is no point in upgrading lenses. You'll know when you really need a new lens, like when you want to start doing some more macro or you need something a bit longer because you're getting into wildlife. For me, I have the Holy Trinity, and this covers me for pretty much every situation. These days, I'm a big fan of spending money on experiences. Our time is so valuable, and I want to maximize every second. So using our resources to do cool and exciting things is the way to go, I think. And most often, that's just a few pounds worth of petrol to get me to the hill where walking up it is free. It doesn't have to be an organised event either. I don't have any workshops to sell you at the moment, but you can now become a patron of this channel and support my work by going to firstmanphotography.com or just hitting the link down below. Patrons get access to a brilliant member forum, downloads, discounts, and you can join me now for an online meetup every month and then some in person when we get them going in the new year. Your support also helps me share these videos on my website for free, without ads and without sponsorship. So hit the link down below and I'd really appreciate it if you were to help me out. But if you're itching to buy a new piece of photography gear, the biggest single improvement you will ever see will happen if you start printing your work. I've now put all my printing videos into a masterclass on my website so you can watch them all in one place for free, and hopefully it will inspire you to give it a try. Every time I talk about printing, there are concerns over the cost, but people don't think twice about dropping $3,000 on a new camera and thousands on lenses. A very good printer will set you back between £500 and £1,000 depending on the model, and the cost of inks is nowhere near as much as people think. You don't ever have to buy a whole set of inks at once. They run out at different times and then just replace them as you need. Printing is just a joyous experience, and the buzz you get from bringing your work to life in the physical world is much more fulfilling and longer lasting than any camera you will ever buy. My current ethos is to spend as little money as possible, which means only replacing things once they break, or if it helps me to do something new and interesting. I had a nightmare recently where in the space of about 3 months, my computer stopped working, which I use to make these videos. My RAID hard drive broke that contains all of my data from the years gone by. And to cap it all off, last week, my studio monitors gave up. As I dropped an obscene amount of money replacing these things, just so I can keep doing the same thing I was doing before, more, it served as a reminder of just how insanely expensive it is creating videos rather than just photographs. And I just need to pray to God that my camera keeps going for the next 100,000 frames. At some point though, the trusty Canon 5D Mark IV will stop working, and it'll be a sad day. But I will then be excited about getting a new camera. I enjoy that Christmas type feeling you get unboxing something new. But for me, the gear is just not the exciting part of photography, and it almost never improves your skills or makes you better. For landscape photographers, having good hiking boots, a warm coat and a waterproof bag is going to be way more effective in improving your photography than any new camera or lens will ever do. But a new piece of gear can inspire you to get out and take more pictures, and that's great because that's what it's all about. I love my camera, but it's just a tool. For me, it's about using these things to create, collaborate, do interesting stuff, and make beautiful things. It's about having good times, challenging ourselves, and pushing our limits. And then, best of all, we make a load of new friends along the way. And in a world where AI is starting to have a massive influence, human connections, creativity, and our relationship to nature is more important than ever. Please do check out my website via the link down below and consider supporting the channel, or click here to watch a video that you might like, or click here to watch why I have decided to quit social media. I hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you on another one very, very soon.